10-year-old me. Live in rural area at the time. Have fields that surround my house and a patch of woods further back on one side in the distance. Outside, jumping on trampoline one day. Happened to glance and notice something in the distance. About half a mile away into one of the rice fields, see person walking. Rice fields are flooded with levees built around them. This guy, thing, is walking, almost trying to run through them. No farm trucks around, no nearby highways or buildings, except for elderly neighbors who are further away near neighborhood entrance. Whatever this thing is, it is hurrying west, with nothing in his path besides the woods about a mile away. It makes no sense because there were some dirt roads that could take you there with a few turns. Run inside, tell parents and grab binoculars. Run outside and zoom in on him. He's already made it to the next rice field. Now this is the first part that genuinely freaked me out. I couldn't get a good close-up on whatever it was, but it was solid black. No clothes, just this slender, dull black figure that had an almost mummified texture. I could see its appendages were very thin and bone-like. Shit bricks and hand-dad binoculars. He looks at it for a while, almost dumbfounded. I could tell he was scared, but trying to stay cool so I wouldn't be any more frightened. He rushes me and Mom into house. Watch through the window with binoculars as it continues pacing towards the woods. Eventually gets close to edge of forest. Dad has binoculars. I can only barely see him at the edge of the woods in the distance. Here's the other part that really freaked me and my family the hell out. From what I saw that day, I thought the thing just disappeared. I saw the figure far in the distance 1 second, eyes locked on it, and the next second it just disappeared. My dad dropped the binoculars and we all stayed at our aunt's house for the next few nights. It freaked us out so badly. We eventually moved, mainly because of this. Flash forward to when I was 15, we ended up on discussion about what had happened that day, and my dad admitted to me. He said that it didn't just disappear like I had thought. He saw it close enough through the binoculars and said that it stopped still on the edge of the last rice field. All of a sudden, this thing just drops into the water standing straight up. Just falls in like there's a big hole in the bottom. You could have heard a pin drop in that room, I was so scared. The reason he never told me was because he didn't want me to be frightened, and because I was so young at the time. Imagine how many times you walked by there and your dad didn't say a thing. All I remember is when I was about 11 to 12, I woke up one morning when I was sleeping in the sitting room, and I swore I saw a devil or something black that moved in the corner of the room. I put my head under the blanket for 30 seconds and it was gone when I looked again. Same thing happened again at 14. I see a red devil with horns staring in at me on my bunk bed. My brother just happened to not be there that night. This one didn't move. I didn't see eyes, but rather black sunken-in eye sockets. Some nights I'll just sleep with the lights on. In preschool, mid-90s, playing out in the playground with my friends. We noticed the other kids and even the faculty all crowding under the jungle gym. Can't find a good picture of it, but it had sort of 2 levels to it. The bottom level was dark and shaded and pretty large, so it was enough to hold most everyone. We go in to see why everyone's there. On one of the support beams is this thing that looks like a domino mask. No one was wearing it. It was actually on the beam. But there were human eyes protruding from the sockets, and they were moving. They were looking at all of us frantically, with noticeable veins along the sclera, and I remember the staff being very disturbed by it. We were eventually all shuffled out away from it. It was gone the next day. All my friends remember it being there. I still have absolutely no idea what it was, but I distinctly remember it happening. It wasn't a dream, and it definitely was alive or something. The eyes were way too real to be some kind of machine or toy. I've told this story to a lot of friends between then and now, and none of them had an answer. Me and my friend, Rashawn, went in a woods one time. Really shitty plan. Me and Rashawn load up on guns/necessary supplies. We are gonna do the K in a Woods Stalker Challenge. Lived in Washington at the time, so there was a shit ton of forest. We hop on Google Maps, satellite imaging, and immediately, about 3 miles into the woods near our town, a partially blurred but blatantly rusted and overgrown facility. Load ATVs onto truck, make sure we have enough food for a week because we aren't cowards, and drive out. Rashawn is a wereaboo, so he has a good old Mauser bolt action and a Luger his great-grandpa got off of a dead SS officer. I'm a Slaviboo, so I have a nugget and a hand nugget. Both of us have gas masks for no reason. So we get to the edge of the woods and, being the paranoid people we are, unload our gear and hide the truck with branches so that it won't get stolen, towed, etc. Hop onto the ATVs and get going. Within the hour, we have camp set up and have broken out the pre-marinated shashlik and spits. I pluck out some stalker campfire guitar songs and we just chill. We decide it wouldn't be very stalkerish of us to chill in one spot. Eat the shashlik, put the rest of the food up high, load our weapons, and begin exploring. We have some good fun. Looks to have been an old processing facility. Grain silos everywhere. Town has a major homeless issue, so we decide to set up a position on top of the silo. Rashawn guards the ladder while I go up to look around, seeing as how I had the scope. Stay up there for 15 minutes. Catch a glimpse of something in the upper part of what was most likely the administration building. Looked like a chick with a beard. Chamber around and let Rashawn know, whispering into my walkie-talkie. Hear a stereotypical laugh back. Dude, we gotta go check that out. Sweet Lord Rashawn. Climb on down, and we both make sure our pistols are loaded. CQC is a bitch with long rifles. Since I have me a revolver, I have only 6 shots. Meanwhile, Rashawn is decked out with 12 rounds and a Luger. Feeling like real operators, kick down the door on the bottom floor of the admin building. Wasn't as smooth as you would think. Had to kick a good 6 times. Flashlights on. Probably asbestos in here, so I guess we need the masks after all. Sneak up the stairs. Barricade at the top floor. Little hole in the barricade reveals that there is no door, and the thing I saw is in there. It had a really feminine face, minus the massive beard. Its hands were small, like a baby's, but the rest of it was built like a gorilla with breasts. It was eating out of a pile of rats. Pull the hammer back on my pistol, and Rashawn realizes something's up. Too bad the Luger is loud as hell. She, he, it immediately looks up from the rats and rushes the barricade. Thank God it couldn't get through. Then, it jumped out the window. We hear a nice crunch. We fully expect it to rush up the stairs like something out of a horror movie, but it doesn't. We hear grunting getting farther and farther away. Decide now is the time for both of us to go up the ladder on the silo and look for it. We aren't cowards, and we are fully prepared to shoot the mutant female bodybuilder. Up on top of the silo, we look around again, surveying the rest of the complex when suddenly from behind me, bang, and a bolt being worked. Ask what happened. It was at our campsite. I missed it, but I think it got the message. End of day 1. Day 2. We wake up, no sign of the bitch squatch. Still on edge about the whole situation, but we are stalkers now, no room for fear. We continue our exploration, this time with walkie-talkie and me on top of the silo watching Rashawn's back. He mostly just scouts the area while I watch the area above and behind him. He finds several points of interest, and we arrange to check it out later. At the other end of the complex, see the vile she-gorilla hauling ass back into the area. Let Rashawn know, and he runs into a building. Radios me letting me know he is in a locker. The thing sniffs around and begins digging with its baby hands. Pulls a dog out of the ground and begins eating it. Almost vomit. Decide to try and kill the haram beast. Krakow. Peg it in the foot. Pinch myself for being a piece of shit and not putting distance or wind into the equation. It howls and rushes the building where Rashawn is hiding. It's probably mad now. Hold my breath. Thank the Lord when I see it break through the door on top of the building. Probably has a bad sense of direction. Get ready to take shot number 2. Krakow. This time hit it in the gut. More howling, except this time weaker. Jumps off the building and spider crawls into the woods. Radio Rashawn to let him know it's gone. His voice is all shaky and he says the thing sniffed the locker he was in for a moment and gave it a good punch. Next time we are going together. End of day 2. Day 3 begins, same as the last one. We don't feel comfortable on the ground anymore. Set up a rope ladder on top of one of the buildings and barricade the door. Move everything up there, tent, food, and all. Decide yesterday we needed some extra firepower, so our friend Tim was going to come down with his AR and Glock. Dude was in Afghanistan for a grand total of 4 years. He knows his stuff. Hear the sound of his gator coming through the woods. He pulls up at base camp and unloads his gear. We are delighted to learn it includes 100 homemade brownies and a couple bottles of rum. At about 6 p.m. we see the thing doing its goddamn spider crawl back to the dog. It can't take a hint, can it? But wait. Holy shit. It has bandages where I shot it. Its foot has a makeshift splint, and its gut is covered with a piece of leather that has been tied on it with primitive-looking fibers. Everyone takes aim this time. Tim slaps a suppressor on his AR and gets ready to fill it with lead. Unfortunately, it seems to have smartened up. Hears his AR click and starts snarling, looking right at the people who have been rooting its dinner time for the past 2 days. Drags the dog into the administration building and I guess begins taunting us. Tim says, "Holy shit, y'all weren't kidding." We unanimously decide that sleeping in shifts is a good plan. Wake up and Tim is refilling the magazines he brought along. The building where it had the dog is now covered in bullet holes, with a nice bit of blood in the area too. Before I can even ask, Tim says it made a run for it. I think I hit it maybe 12 times, not so much as a peep out of it. Confused because I messed it up last time. Ask him why he couldn't do anything to it. Well, for one, it came out covered in scrap steel, about 3 layers for each, I guess, armor plate. It also used the dog as a meat shield. That's where the blood came from. Don't go near that shit. It's probably old and coagulated. I could smell it from here when it first came out. We begin to doubt that that's all that happened. No way all that blood came from one dog who was probably dead for weeks. Day 4 of our excursion was interesting to say the least. All quiet until once again at 6 p.m. it came back, but this time it had a friend. Another one, pretty similar, but this time blatantly male. This one wasn't built like a gorilla though. It was pretty small, scrawny. Nice full beard though. We flip our shit and begin emptying magazines downrange at him. Kill the smaller one. It begins convulsing and the other one drags it back into the woods. At this point, we are tired of this. Tim decides that we should trap the perimeter. Brought a bunch of percussion caps and black powder. Turns out he meant to bring his muzzle loader too, but forgot it. But we can make some bottle mines though. What we did was fill plastic bottles with scrap metal and black powder, cut a tiny hole big enough for a pin to go through, and secured a percussion cap underneath the pin. Buried about 14 of them around the facility perimeter. On day 6 of our little adventure, things turned into an all-out siege. It's a miracle that nobody heard the gunshots and called the police. Rashawn flips his lid and points to the tree line. 5 of the things, including Shirambe, all standing there with what looks like makeshift spears. Why did we have to get the smart ones? .jpg. They rush like a bunch of rednecks towards a free ammo stand. Laugh our asses off when we hear 6 explosions. One got launched by a mine and hit another one. We finally killed the vile female bodybuilder. Our victory was short-lived, however. 10 more came out and collected the bodies. At this point, we are certain that we are screwed. Not just by the authorities for when some hiker steps on a mine, but because there are way more than we thought. At this point, we start to think we have picked a fight with a clan of inbreeding hillbillies. Send a few of our friends a map of where we place the mines and ask for backup. 2 show up. Dennis, the resident edgelord/crusader wannabe, shows up in some medieval armor he bought off eBay for $2,000 and a cold steel cringe sword. Johnny, who's an even bigger Slavoboo than me, shows up with an SKS and a Makarov. Dude even wears a Ushanka. Begin fortifying our roof. We made a quick run, grabbed some burlap sacks, filled them with dirt, and even ended up making a makeshift cannon out of an old pipe. We ended up loading it with silverware and marbles. We replenished our mines with about 20 more around the perimeter, and I set up a sniper position on the now famous silo. Once again at 6 p.m. they show up. Our suspicions that they are a hillbilly clan is almost confirmed when one shows up with a double-barreled shotgun. Of course, he is the biggest threat, so I elect to try and kill him first. Finally get that shot I have been looking for. Get him square in the center of mass and watch him fall over. Proud of myself, but also going to hell.png. Of course they rush, not learning from last time. 11 or 12 of the 20 blow themselves up on our mines. Johnny stands above the sandbags, raises his SKS above his head and lets out a mighty battle cry. This invigorates our will to fight even further, and we fire off the cannon. 2 limp off into the woods with forks and marbles in them, and 1 is blatantly killed as the brunt of the shot hits him. 110 rounds later, the battle is over. We gather up the bodies, burn them, and hopefully gathered up all the mines and dismantled them. I think the cannon is still at Tim's house somewhere. We all make it back to our rides in GTFO. I lay awake at night hoping we didn't commit mass murder and that the 2 that got away with forks in their ass don't show up at my house with the cops.